Maybe your spouse has complained to you that he or she just doesn't feel appreciated. Well, let's just take that at face value today and work on this whole appreciation thing. It can only help, right?
Welcome to the Only You Forever podcast. If you want to build a thriving, passionate marriage, we've got the research, the truth, and the answers you've been looking for. And now, here are your hosts, Caleb and Verlinda Simone Kendall.
Hey everybody, this is episode number 117, and we are going to be talking about the why and how of showing appreciation to your spouse.
Last week, we talked about doing an intimacy checkup in our marriages for Linda. And so if you're listening today and you missed that show, be sure to go back and grab it. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button in your podcast player so you don't miss any shows from the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. So let's get into this today, Verlinda. Appreciation. Let's see what the research says. I think it's a great topic because one of my favorite Bible verses is, "You must let no unwholesome word come out of your mouth, but only what is beneficial for the building up of the one in need, that it may give grace to those who hear." And that's found in Ephesians 4:29. And if every word that we spoke in our marriages was tested by that verse, I think we'd see some vast improvements, right?
Yeah.
So we want to talk about these wholesome words, and specifically in the context of appreciation today. What?
Why do you think we do that? Like, we hold ourselves to this standard, when dealing with people of the church or friends or whatever. And then when it comes to family, we just say anything.
I don't know why we always do that. There's different reasons for that, but I think we have higher expectations of our spouses often than others. And so because of that, when they don't meet them, we feel like we can be harsher on them. And I think sometimes too, we take advantage of the fact that there's a marriage commitment, like a covenant in place there. And so I think I can be nastier to you because you can't leave, whereas I can't do that to other people because they'll start avoiding me.
Interesting.
I don't think any of us thinks that out loud, but this is kind of what happens.
Or I wonder if we just relax more at home and we're not as
worried about. Yeah.
Or I don't know.
But what we want to do is just learn to be authentic, right?
Yeah.
And in some ways, this appreciation issue comes back to authenticity because what we're trying to do is bring our internal recognition of the value of another person out and make that larger in our minds and begin to give voice to it so that I see you and I appreciate you and I speak about that.
Okay.
So let's start with what appreciation looks like in marriage. There's a measurement tool used in research called the Appreciation in Relationships Scale. And this includes things like telling your partner that he or she is the best, telling your partner how much you appreciate him or her, not taking your partner for granted, acknowledging and treating your partner like she is someone or he is someone special, noticing when they do nice things for you and saying thank you, even for really small things, feeling struck with a sense of awe and wonder when you think about your spouse being in your life and telling them things that you really like about him or her. So these are the kinds of things that gets measured in the research when we're looking at the subject of appreciation.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So appreciation is any feeling or expression of gratitude for who a person is or what they do. Does that make sense? Any expression of gratitude for who a person is or what they do.
Yeah, okay.
And on the flip side of this, when you perceive that your spouse sees you as valuable, you feel appreciated.
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And of course, this leads to a greater sense of security in the marriage and also the feeling that you can be confident of how your spouse sees you.
What do you mean by that?
It just means that like inside the context of our marriage, when there's appreciation happening, I can feel sort of secure and confident about the way that you see me. Like I'm not on edge trying to prove myself to you. Or
I know
not
what you
being
think?
sure. Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Okay.
So appreciation leads to this, right?
Okay.
Because it's really hard when you're not sure what your spouse thinks of you.
Yeah.
So if you're a person listening today and your spouse is complaining that they don't feel appreciated by you, it may be because of this underlying security. They're not actually sure what you think of them. Now, it's hard to say why that is in your particular case. It could be because there's a underlying insecurity on their part and they're not able to accept your praise.
Yeah, it goes both ways. Yeah.
Or it could be that you aren't giving them enough of this. So given that you can only change yourself, let's talk about how we're giving. Okay. And so what happens when we take these needs for appreciation that we all have and we bring them into our marriage, what we're doing when we're expressing appreciation is we're shifting our focus away from our own self-interest and we're really starting to include our spouse's needs. So it's a very giving thing to express appreciation.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is fundamental because you have to kind of position yourself in this around what you're giving rather than what you're getting from your marriage. So this is a generous, investing, kind of altruistic. It's putting it out there for the benefit of the other person. Now, when I do that and I make that shift, I'm expressing now behaviors that help to maintain and build up a marriage relationship. And that's kind of the point of this appreciation thing, is it really builds up the marriage.
Okay.
So if you're listening today and maybe you started this episode with, what can I get from this? I wish my spouse would give me more. My challenge to you is that love should not be measured by what you get, but by what you're giving.
Yeah.
I don't think love was ever intended to be measured on the basis of what you're receiving.
Right. Okay.
Now, if you want to get really good at this appreciation thing, we have a bonus for you to go with this episode. It's called 8 Ways to Appreciate Your Spouse. It's different from the list I mentioned earlier, and it gives you some practicable, doable tactics to show appreciation. And we'd love to email this to you to help you incorporate this learning into your marriage so that you can be an appreciative spouse. You can get this worksheet by opening your browser to oyf.link/117. That's the blog post for this episode. You can scroll down to the gray box with the orange button and click on that and get it that way. Or you can text the word podcast to 9292 spouse. Message and data rates may apply. Once again, all you need to do is text the word podcast to 9292 spouse, or you can find this bonus on our website at oyf.link/117. Let's talk, Verlinda, about how appreciation blesses our marriage, okay?
Okay.
And what I want to do is give our listeners 5 ways that appreciation benefits the marriage. And I want our listeners to know why this works and what it does for your marriage so that they can really become intentional about putting this into place. So that's where we're going with this.
Okay.
And this is kind of the main chunk of what we have to talk about today. So the first thing that happens is when you appreciate your spouse will appreciate you. There's a reciprocation that occurs.
So it's like an upward cycle.
Yeah, it's a positive cycle.
Positive cycle.
A study from 2012 showed that feeling appreciated by one's spouse promotes one's own appreciative feelings. People who feel more appreciated by their romantic partners report being more appreciative of their partners. Yeah, I'm quoting here. And in turn, people who are more appreciative of their partners report being more responsive to their partner's needs.
I would appreciate if you could summarize the appreciation quote.
Okay. So what they're saying is that appreciation begets more appreciation.
Okay.
Right? So when you appreciate your spouse,
more?
Yeah, when you appreciate your spouse is more likely to appreciate you back.
Okay.
So like you said, appreciation starts a healthy cycle in your marriage. As one partner or one spouse considers the other before themselves, the other partner starts to do the same. And the relationship kind of, as a whole, it benefits from this, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But not only that, but they're also saying that there's this one part of the quote that people who are more appreciative of their partners report being more responsive to their partner's needs.
Yeah.
As I express more appreciation of you, I have to observe you to express that, right? And I have to be saying things that you're doing to do that, right? And because of that appreciation, I also gain an awareness of what's going on in your world. And then I become more responsive to your needs as well. So not only am I sending appreciation your direction, but I'm becoming more aware of you. And then I'm also stepping up to the plate to be more serving of you.
Okay.
Am I losing? Is this too complicated?
What is appreciation? Like, is appreciation like thanking someone for what they've done? Like it's acknowledging behaviors?
Yeah. Remember at the start, we talked about appreciation is any expression of gratitude for who a person is.
Okay.
Or what they do.
Okay. So it can be both.
So thanks for making supper to your great cook.
Okay.
Or I really appreciate the care you showed when, little Johnny fell on the sidewalk the other day and skinned his knee and you were like so compassionate toward him. That's a very character who you are kind of thing.
Yeah.
Based on a behavior that I saw.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this first aspect though is when you appreciate your spouse more, your spouse is going to appreciate you back more as well.
All right.
And essentially it's kind of like the golden rule in marriage, right? Do as unto others, you'd have them do unto you. So again, it's a challenge. If you don't feel like you're getting enough appreciation, I ask the question, how much are you putting in? And does your spouse feel like a very appreciated person? So let's start there because that's something we can do that's within our power and control to do that, right?
Yeah.
Is to give that appreciation. Okay, the second part here of how appreciation blesses your marriage is appreciation can lead to greater commitment and it actually protects from divorce. So further results from the study show that people who are more appreciative of their spouses are more committed and they're also more likely to remain in their relationships over time. So in this way, displaying appreciation, it protects against divorce and separation.
Okay, I guess I can see that.
This is a way to kind of secure your marriage as well, right?
Okay.
So I don't really have much to add to that other than to point out that anything that contributes to the happy longevity of your marriage is worthwhile.
Yeah.
So this is a good reason to be appreciative.
Okay.
Thirdly, appreciation positively changes how you view your marriage. So it changes your perspective on the marriage.
Okay.
And this is really cool. It's from a different study now. In 2010, they looked at gratitude, which is one way of showing appreciation. And they discovered that one of the benefits of expressing gratitude is that it positively changes how each spouse views the relationship, specifically in terms of what they call the communal strength of the relationship. Now, get into some language here, okay?
Yeah.
So let me just try to break this down. Gratitude is what you feel when you're aware of what you appreciate.
Okay, say that again. Gratitude is what you feel
when you're aware of what you appreciate.
Okay, yeah.
And developing the habit of looking for and then giving words to what you appreciate is how you create gratitude.
Oh my goodness. So when you actually vocalize what you appreciate, that's gratitude.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what they're saying when they talk about this communal strength piece is that more gratitude or more appreciation is correlated with an increased sense of responsibility for meeting your spouse's needs.
Oh my dear.
So this is the fun part where we get to take this really wordy research and try to break it down. Mm-hmm. So you're doing things for them without an expectation of return. You have this increased sense of responsibility for meeting your spouse's needs, right? Mm-hmm. So just focusing on appreciation, it adds this part to your marriage, which affects how you view the marriage. Like when you're expressing gratitude and you're looking for those opportunities to show appreciation, you will actually feel that your marriage is stronger as a result.
Okay.
So there's a shift in our perspective and our evaluation of the strength of the marriage as we express and experience more gratitude.
So it actually strengthens the marriage. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you kind of think about it, makes sense. If you're thankful for your marriage, you'll feel like it's stronger.
Mm-hmm. And if you're telling your spouse what you appreciate about them, there's more security there.
Right.
It's not like they're always wondering and they're doubting and they're going elsewhere, kind of.
Right. And I think where this can kind of speak to real life situations is it's easy to dwell on everything that's wrong with a marriage, in your marriage, right?
Yes.
And I'm not wanting in any way to minimize some of the struggles that our listeners are facing and very real issues of affairs or betrayal or, disappointments, even mistreatment, those kinds of things, those exist, right? And those are real. But often in our distress, if we just lose sight of the things that we can be thankful for and we're only focused on the negative, it really erodes your sense of commitment to the marriage, right? And the strength.
Mm-hmm. Well, even last week, talking about positivity.
Yeah.
And how just discussing the little positive bits about your day can help your marriage.
So, and this is kind of taking that to the next part of looking for that in your spouse. Even in people that are really struggling, and I know this can be such a challenge to do, but even in people that you're really struggling to like at times, there has to be redemptive parts of their personality or things that we could be thankful for or appreciate. There's still virtues there, right?
Yeah.
We tend to, especially when we're distressed in a relationship, we tend to cast that person as all bad.
Right.
So appreciation, then, it can change how you view your marriage. And that can be one way to help yourself move back to a more positive experience in your marriage.
Got it.
Now, another thing that's quite interesting is that appreciation can improve your spouse's mental health. And
What?
This one, this study's fascinating, but I mean, if we thought the language was tough in the last one, it's worse than this one. This is a study from 2013 that looked at how gratitude within a marriage impacted the mental well-being of each spouse. So
how do they even think of this to research?
I don't know.
Anyways,
I think
that's
it's pretty
good.
cool though, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is gratitude as a form of appreciation, right? Mm-hmm. And they used a depression scale. Probably a lot of our listeners might have heard a Beck inventory. It's just basically a questionnaire that's used to measure depressive symptoms.
Okay.
And here's what they found, that the husband's gratitude negatively correlated with the wife's depressive emotion, meaning that there was this observable correlation. As the husband showed more gratitude, the wives experienced less depressive symptoms.
Wow.
Quite something.
Yep.
And they said, this is a quote, a wife's depression would be relatively palliated, I think I said that right, palliated if her husband was assigned to express appreciation to her and not share daily hassles. So this was a new word even there for me. Palliated means that you have relief of symptoms, but not necessarily a cure.
Okay.
So we're not saying you can cure depression, right?
Right.
But there's relief from the symptoms of depression. So a wife's depressive symptoms would be relatively lessened if her husband was intentional about appreciation and, in this particular study, also refrained from dumping the daily hassles of life on her.
Okay. I mean, we've talked in other episodes, though, about, to create intimacy, to share those things that you struggle with and that are hard. And so I guess there needs to be a balance in there.
Yeah. And so, this study's looking at a situation more for, I think, the case of helping a depressed spouse than the case of trying to recover a marriage.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we do want to share the full experience of our lives with each other. But I think if we kind of honestly stop and look into our lives, we're probably pretty good at dumping the daily hassles on each other and not so good at being intentional about showing appreciation and gratitude.
Right. But I mean, I guess a daily hassle could be like, oh, that jerk cut me off on the way to work, and like just those little things that really don't matter in the big scheme of life.
Yeah, or I guess I would be more concerned that it would look like complaints about work, which would feel like work wasn't going so well, which would lead to sense of insecurity and whether this job is going to last and so on. So seeing that through the lens of depression, is quite a gloomy thing.
Interesting. Okay.
So not necessarily the more trivial things, right?
Yeah.
So this is pretty cool, but how does this work? And they're not really sure, but one thought is that the husband's appreciation could serve as a mental resource. Like his positivity energizes her a little bit to get through the day better. Mm-hmm. Right? So you're bringing some good juices into the marriage.
Yeah. I mean, that goes both ways, right?
It does.
One has a bad day, the other can lift you up.
Yeah. And also receiving appreciation probably strengthens self-esteem and self-efficacy. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you feel better about yourself and about your ability to do things. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know why I keep using the cooking example.
Are you hungry?
Stereotyping thing. But if you feel more confident and more capable as a result of appreciation, you're going to feel like you can get out there and do more, right? Which is not counterintuitive, but it's against the depressive symptoms and the messaging you get from depressive symptoms. So you also have this reciprocation dynamic that comes into play. So now the depressed spouse is wanting to return the gratitude, which is another boost too, right? Because they're experiencing something which they may normally not be in touch with.
Huh.
So there's some pretty cool things that go on there. So appreciation can actually help improve your spouse's mental health. Now, finally, appreciation also leads to more honest marriages. And this was kind of funny too. This is from another study in 2011 by Lambert and Fincham. And they observed how expressing gratitude in marriage led to more honest marriages in the face of conflict.
So
they found that there was a relationship between, quoting here, between naturally occurring expressions of gratitude and comfort in voicing relationship concerns.
So if I express gratitude to you about something, why would I then feel more comfortable coming and complain at you?
You can immediately turn around and slam me. I bought one and now I'm going to spend it. There we go. So what this is saying that is if the relationship is characterized by gratitude, it kind of ties back to the earlier point, because I'm sort of riding on the crest of this wave of knowing that you appreciate me. Mm-hmm. When you say, you know what, like, I wish you wouldn't braid your goatee. It looks really stupid. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to feel as devastated by that as I might if I never heard anything positive from you and that was just one more slam on the long list.
Okay.
So, and don't worry, folks, I don't braid my goatee. So what happens here is when you express gratitude, right, it increases your positive perceptions of your spouse.
Yeah.
And through that mechanism, the spouses feel more comfortable also expressing then their concerns.
Okay.
So it just means that having positivity in the marriage means that you can also have the opportunity to raise issues without fear of a meltdown. Right? So just like from the Gottman research I learned in school a long time ago, like in happy marriages, there's 5 positive moments for every 1 negative moment.
Right.
And I always thought the great thing about that was you could have your 1 negative moment. Like you didn't have to have 0 to have a happy marriage.
Right.
And that's what I think this is going along with that idea, right? And, it just makes sense. Like I can more easily listen to you point out a problem within myself when I'm listening in the framework of a marriage that's already affirming and safe and appreciative. That's the nature of my marriage, right?
Right. Okay.
That makes sense, I think.
Yeah. But as you say, if it's just one more
on a long list of things that are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I can see how appreciation can strengthen a marriage.
It can strengthen a marriage, right? It's also the more honest marriage, right? So if there's not a lot of appreciation there, then I'm not going to be raising all of the concerns. I'm going to be hiding and really, you got to pick we start saying things like, well, you have to pick which hills you're going to die on. And you're not being fully transparent and honest with each other. That's
and
the
then those
flip side.
little things grow and
They add up.
yeah, interesting. Okay.
So this is our challenge for you today. If you're listening, go and start making it a consistent practice to show appreciation in your marriage.
Yes.
And again, if you're looking for specific ideas on how to get started with that, we do have that PDF we'd like to email you a link to. You can get that by going onto our blog post for this episode. Just pull up your web browser on your phone or your computer, go to oyf.link/117. That's 117. Or you can text the word podcast to 9292 spouse. All right.
I remember listening to podcasts and it was like when they were in the hundreds, it was like, whoa.
And now we're there.
And now we're in the hundreds.
Yeah.
It's just like, 117.
And we just clicked over 300,000 downloads.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
So thank you to all of you who are listening and downloading and working on your marriages.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. All right, we had a review last week, Valinda. Let's do that and wrap this show up.
Did by Instant from the US. They say insightful, 4 stars, interesting content, insightful analysis, and engaging couple.
Thanks.
So thank you, Instant.
We're glad that we're interesting, insightful, and engaging.
Well, the content is interesting.
Oh, you are too.
Oh, yeah.
That's my appreciation. Check the box for
day.
today. All right. If you would like to get involved in our mission to help save marriages through our podcast, we do need your support, and we'd like to ask you to contribute to our crowdfunding campaign. We want to reach 5,000 marriages a week through the podcast, and we can't do that without you. For even $5 a month, you can help us move toward making that a reality. If you'd like to help, please go to oyf.link/give. Once again, that's oyf.link/give. Next week, Verlinda, we're going to talk about what to talk about on your next date. Sounds kind of funny, but it's something we struggle with sometimes, and we know other couples do too.
Yeah, we've had people actually ask about that.
Yeah. What do we talk about on dates?
Do you know what we're really bad at?
What?
Is like sitting in a restaurant and we're like listening to the conversation going on beside us instead of actually talking.
Yep.
That's really terrible. I can't believe I just said that in public.
We're actually really good at that.
Yes, well, that's all for today's episode. Once again, you can get the full show notes at oyf.link/117. And remember, you left the same one in again.
Oh, I left the same finish?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Valinda. I don't feel very appreciated right now, but that's fine.
Well, it's because I appreciate you all the other times, and so I'm allowed to throw this in.
Oh, okay. You're using your one negative up.
Yeah.
All right. I can take this.
Yeah.
Do it.
So remember, we're here to help build thriving, passionate marriages. So if this was helpful to you, we'd love it if you could help us spread the word and share this with others who would also be blessed by it. So that means like you can share it on Facebook, leave a review, share it with a friend. We actually had a neat question from somebody about
creating posters to put up at church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or little info things to hand out or whatever. Anyways, thanks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the onlyyouforever.com podcast. Please help us reach and influence a wider audience by rating and reviewing our podcast at onlyyouforever.com/love. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.